What's inside this box? That's what we're going to find out today. If you haven't watched my very first video, I introduced the Apex method where I broke down how I arrived at this box. And now I'm going to show you exactly what's inside the box and why I chose those items. You ready? Let's do this. My name is Vicki No and welcome to my lab. I am a recovering corporate executive with over 20 years of experience in the chemical industry space. I develop numerous new products and new innovations. In this channel, I'm going to share with you all the tips, tricks, methods, and process that I use to build that success in my life and replicating that and applying it to this new life. So if you're somebody who is wanting to build a new life, building a new skill, I'd love for you to join me on my journey. Ready to see what's inside? First of all, I gotta share with you that I've actually had multiple boxes that have come in and I've already opened the other ones. So let me share with you the things that are in the other boxes. The first is going to be super critical and it's going to go under the equipment category. This is a wax warmer. I bought this off of Amazon and what I really wanted is something that was digital so that I can read what temperature it is. It'll help me really fine tune the exact temperature to melt my wax. It's also got a spout, so it's going to be easy for me to pour the wax into my container. And it's got a non-stick surface, so it's going to be easy for me to clean the wax out of this when I'm done. Now, if you notice, it's a very small bowl. My very first candle, I'm not looking to buy a lot of wax and build lots of different candles. This very first phase is all about discovery, learning what's going to work, how and what kind of candle do I want to build. So I wanted something small, something manageable, but I also don't want to spend a lot of money. Again, if you saw my Apex method, I talked about really defining your budget so you don't spend a lot of money and doing something that maybe you find is not going to be useful. So didn't want to spend too much money on this. It may work, it may not sure. We're going to see. But what's going to be really cool is that this is also something I'm going to use in the future for when I want to make small candles. However, as soon as I learn what kind of candles I want to make and build, I might just sell them. I will want to buy a bigger container that will hold a lot more wax, and that way I can replicate the same formula each and every time and make big batches of it. But for now, small container. What I also purchased previously is a digital thermometer. This is going to be similar to this. However, this is going to be the temperature that it sets at. I actually want to measure the actual temperature of the wax. What I read is there's a couple temperatures that you're going to want to know to building that candle. So first you want to know your melt temperature, and that's going to help you figure out like when's the best time or how hot do you need to have that candle warmer up to so that you make sure that your wax is completely melted and that you can make the best wax. Now, if your wax isn't completely melted, you're going to have solid chunks and it's not going to be very, a well-mixed candle, or in the world of science, we call it homogeneous. The other temperature that you're going to want to pay attention to is the pour temperature. So that pour temperature is going to be very different from the melt temperature. And the pour temperature is going to tell you like, this is the best time to pour it into a candle container. Two different temperatures. Bought a digital thermometer to help me figure out what temperatures I need for both of those. Then I have various wicks. Now, this is going to be super important, and I bought multiple different types of wicks. I've got a CD8 6-inch pre-tab wick. I also have an Eco 12 6-inch, and then I also have an Eco 2 6-inch, and let's see, what else do I have? I know I bought another wick called a Premium. Now, why did I buy 4 different types of wicks? Well, when you go and buy your waxes, the vendors will actually give you a suggestion on what kind of wicks to buy. There is not just one size fits all type of wick. Each wick is going to be different for different waxes, but also the size of your candle. Now, I know that for the Eco 2 and the Eco 12 wicks, these are going to be best for my soy waxes, which is going to be more eco-friendly, whereas my CD wick is going to be more for my paraffin waxes. It's also size dependent because if you have a little wick, but you have a big massive candle, you're not going to actually allow the wax to funnel through that wick good enough so that it burns really, really well. However, if you have a wick that's way too big for your candle, it's like putting so much gasoline in that you're going to burn through that candle super, super fast, and it's not going to be effective as a candle, but also the type of fragrance you're going to put in there, it's going to burn too fast, and it's going to be overpowering when it comes to fragrance. So really critical to buy the right wick, follow the manufacturer's guideline, but also I'm buying several different wicks because I want to test what wick is going to be best for the type of wax that I'm going to be testing. I also bought the 6-inch, so whatever your candle container height is going to be, you want something that's a little bit taller, and that way you can hold the wick taut, make sure it's centered, and if you can hold it taut, then it's going to be placed just perfectly, and then you figure out which wick is going to be best. If you don't have a taut wick, while you pour your wax into the container, your wick is going to actually shift and move, and then next thing you know, it's going to be off center, and you're not going to have the best burn. So super important, get the right wick. I also have this gadget, which is going to help me place the wick centered on my container. I also have the sticky tabs. So I guess there's several ways that you can apply your wick to your container. You can have the sticky tabs, which is two-sided adhesive. You can also put a little wax and kind of dip it and make that wax be that glue for you. But I kind of wanted to make things easy, so I bought, these are not very expensive at all, so I bought this off of Amazon, and this is going to help me really take that wick and put it in the center of my candle so that when I have it taut, that wick is not going to move, and it's going to be much better. And then I also bought myself a wick trimming tool. When you burn your candles, sometimes the candle, depending on the candle as well as the wick type, you have what's called mushrooming, which is that black soot and kind of like, you know, forms this weird mushroom look sort of at the end of the wick. Now, when you go to reburn that, that's actually not the best thing to do. It's going to cause a lot of issues, and it's going to have a lot of soot everywhere. So what people recommend is just trim it. So you trim that wick just a little bit above the surface of the candle. And by doing that, you take away that excess material, and then it becomes better for burning your wick. All right, what's inside the box? To be honest, I bought this box several weeks ago, and I don't exactly remember everything that I bought. This is going to be good because it's going to help remind me why I bought these things. Oh, and I got to show you, I also bought another box of fragrances, so let me share with you what those fragrances are. I bought these fragrances off of a company called Wellington Fragrance Company. I did a lot of research, but also through the books that I read, this is one of the recommended fragrance companies. There's other ones that I looked into, but this one gave me the best bang for my buck, especially as I am developing my very first candle. I really don't want to spend a lot of money. Maybe as I move forward and I develop luxurious candles, I might consider a different fragrance company. But this was in the United States, so tariffs and all that stuff is going to be super helpful. And then I also chose several different types of fragrances based on what I want to create in terms of the scent that I want to recreate, but also it's similar to perfume. And if you don't know much about perfume, there's what's called a top note, a mid note, and a base note. So a base note is really just the thing that's going to anchor the entire candle and kind of sets the theme for that candle. So there are a few things in here. So amber is a base, cedarwood amber. I bought, let's see, what else do I have? Vanilla is also, could be considered a base note, sandalwood. So anytime you have like the woods and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a really good base note. And then layered on top of the base note is what's called a mid note. And that's going to give you that central main character theme. These are going to be smaller in molecular weight than the base notes. And then on top of the mid note is going to be what's called top notes. So those are the things that you're going to smell immediately right away. And that's really going to give you that first impression of that candle. I bought, different top notes like lemon verbena, and then peony. Peony is so beautiful, but it's really hard to extract and distill. I tried it myself, was not successful. So if you can find peony, that would be great. Pear. And so I bought a wide variety of different fragrances, not only in its top, mid, and base notes, but also the different scents. So I bought some that are more sultry, and it's going to be your spices and your woods. I bought some that are a little bit more fresh, like your pear and fruit, and then flowers. I bought some herbs, but I also bought what's called gourmand, which is like that really sweet, like fresh baked cookie smell. So that's going to be your vanilla and your tonka. I'm really excited to try out these different fragrances. Right now, I'm not exactly sure what sort of fragrance combination I'm going to put together. If you have any ideas or you want a certain smell that you want me to try to recreate, I'd love for you to just add that to the comments and I'll consider it. I also am debating whether I should show you my method for really figuring out how to recreate a scent. And I use a wheel. There are fragrance wheels out there, but there isn't a wheel to give me that solid method that I look for. So I actually developed my own scent wheel. I'd love to share it with you. So let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video on that. And then I also bought stearic acid. So stearic acid is going to be something that really helps, especially in paraffin wax. It's going to help really bring some of that fragrance out and stabilize the fragrance. So fragrances, stearic acid, some of the equipment. Now let me show you what's exactly inside the box. So obviously, one thing that you really want to do, what you really want to do when you make your candle is you first want to define what kind of candle are you going to make. Are you going to make a votive? Are you going to make a pillar candle? Are you going to make a dipped wax candle? Are you going to make yourself the big stick candles? For me, I wanted something a little bit more simple. I also wanted to play around eventually with the different designs and the labels and just the aesthetic of the candle itself. So I decided to stick to container candles. These little baby jars, they're super, super cute. They're small. They're only 4 ounces. And I only bought one type. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to do what's called a controlled experiment. In a controlled experiment, you basically want to keep variables the same so that you can understand what other variables are there that you want to explore and learn more about. So for me, my controlled experiment variable is going to be these jars. If I change the jar size, I'm going to have to change the different wicks. If I keep the jar size the same in all my experiments, I will then take away that variable of the different wicks. And if I can just test the different wicks, then I will know, hey, this wick is great for this wax, and this wick is great for that other wax, or this wick doesn't work at all. Helps me really hone in on the wick that I want to try and what's best for the wax. And the other thing that the straight jars is going to help me do, especially as they're clear, because it's straight, it doesn't have any intricate design or anything like that. It helps me calculate how much wax I need for each candle. And the math is going to be super, super straightforward. If I have a very intricate shape that has very different designs and different shapes to it and molds and stuff like that, the math gets a little bit more complicated. And I didn't want to deal with it right now, especially not in this beginning phase. So make it super easy myself. Get a small 4-ounce straight-sided candle. And the other thing that is going to be super helpful about these clear candles is I can see all the mistakes or the areas that I need to improve upon with that wax. If it was a colored jar or a different shaped jar, I wouldn't know how does that wax perform. And what I'm looking for is adhesion. Is that wax going to really stick to that wall and be, solid, or is there gaps and bubbles in there? Are there going to be things like maybe I didn't pour enough, maybe it's not the right wax, maybe the wax is like weird looking and stuff like that. The clear jars help me understand everything that's happening in the wax so that I know where to improve. As I really define more of what kind of wax and I want to use and candle I want to build, I will venture out and try different different jars, different color jars, different containers. But this is going to be a really great starting point. So jars for us. Next important thing, your wax. All right, so I bought multiple different types of waxes. This wax, I think I lost the label. This wax is a chunk. Not sure which wax it is, so I'm going to have to figure out what are the other waxes, and then I can figure out what this wax is. This one is flake style. This is Golden Brand's GW454. It's a soy coconut wax flake. Soy is going to be a type of wax that's going to be more eco-friendly. It doesn't have a lot of sooting to it. Sooting is that black char that you get when you burn the candle. It's going to burn a lot more cleanly. The challenge with soy, let me bring out the soy wax. Soy is going to be And a lot of candles nowadays made out of soy because a lot of people want more of that eco-friendly, that clean burn. They want if the wax that they're using or burning is coming from a sustainable resource such as soybeans. The challenge with soy, especially if you're a beginner, what I've read is that it's going to be a little bit more harder to work with. Fragrance loading is not going to be as good as paraffin. And it's also going to have some candle making challenges like the adhesion and the way it burns and stuff like that. A lot of people say maybe with soy you don't want to try it on your first candle, but I wanted to try the different waxes and see how they burn. So this is the wax. This is going to be in a brick form. When I'm going to be using this, I'm going to have to cut this down and weigh out the amount of wax I'm going to need for my candle. So that's the soy wax. And as I showed earlier, this is the soy and the coconut blend. Why coconut? Well, coconut is also another renewable resource. You can grow more coconuts, not as fast as soy. But the coconut, from what I read, is going to give you that really luxurious feel to it. So I don't exactly know what that means. So I wanted to try this out to really burn this and understand, okay, what does luxurious feel in a candle? What does that look like? What does that feel like? So I'm going to burn this. I'm super excited to see what this looks like. So that's a wax, soy coconut wax blend. Now, I have not been able to find pure coconut wax. If you're an experienced candle maker and you have resource for a pure coconut, I would love for you to just drop that in the comments. And then I want to eventually blend coconut with paraffin or coconut with soy in different sort of combinations, different amounts, just to see what's the best type of candle that I want to make. All right, this is my third wax, which is the Golden Brands GW 464 soy wax. So this is pure soy. As I mentioned earlier, this is preferred by a lot of people because it's eco-friendly, it's got a clean burn, this and that, but also really hard to work with, especially as a beginner. So I wanted to play around with that. That leads me to this one, which has been unlabeled. This is my paraffin wax. I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but these waxes right here that have that soy are more cream colored. That might change the color of the candle dyes. Depending whether I choose the soy or the paraffin, I might need to change or optimize the fragrance or the dye accordingly. The paraffin wax is bright white, and that's actually a really nice looking color in my opinion. Paraffin is really great at holding fragrance in. It's got what's a great hot throw, which is basically when you burn the candle, it's like how much does that fragrance smell. It also has really good cold throw, which is basically when it's in solid form, it's not burned, does that candle still have that, maintain that scent. But the challenge with paraffin is it gets a bad rap. It comes from petroleum, which is basically old aged dinosaurs who've died thousands of years ago, and then their remains became oil. And so a lot of people are, especially those who are eco-conscious, don't like paraffin for that reason. It also provides soot, but easier to work with. Performance-wise, it's a better wax from what I read in terms of performance than soy is. But I wanted to try all this, and I also am going to blend it to see what kind of candle I want to burn. Sometimes when you look at a candle, you can see on the bottom whether it's a soy wax or if it's a paraffin, or it won't say paraffin, but if it's just a non-labeled type of wax, it'll be paraffin or it'll be a coconut. Now, the trick is not everybody's going to say 100% soy. Some of it is going to be a blend, and I don't remember the exact criteria, but I think that there's a certain percentage that if you have that amount of soy in the candle, you can then claim it to be a soy wax. Soy wax labeled is not 100% soy all the time. So just know that. But I'm going to be playing around with different combinations to see what kind of candle I want. And then last, this whole box, I just have more fragrance oil. I bought lavender because lavender is very distinctive, but it's also a way for me to kind of play around with choosing one fragrance that I can just test for both hot throw and cold throw. So I'm super excited. All these things have given me a great start on how to move forward. Again, I use the Apex method, analyze what I need to do, plan it out, and now I'm just going to execute. Join me in my next video where I'm going to share with you my very first candle experiment, where I'm actually going to play around with these different waxes. If you want me to share with you this list of everything that I bought, please drop it in the comments. I will share that list with you. If you're looking for inspiration on how to move forward with a new skill, or if you want to join me in my candle making progress, please subscribe, join me on this journey, and I can't wait to share with you the next step of my journey. Until next time, be you, be bold, and be elegantly rebellious.
Ne réfléchis pas trop, la vie est courte, maman. Ne réfléchis pas trop, la vie est courte. Ne réfléchis pas trop, la vie est courte mon amour. Ne réfléchis pas trop.